I remember that you were part of one of the labs we did on photography, and it was on contemporary landscape here in Colombo Americano those days. That was 2016, if I'm not mistaken, right? Was it?
17.
17. Yeah, thanks.
2017.
And yeah, and those days you presented and you were teaching and you were having conversations with students from the Deborah Arango, that was the academy, right? And
Yes.
and Henry Agudelo as well. We have some conversations with them, and then you have sort of an installation, a photo installation in the gallery, and it was about the landscape that is on the borders on the United States and Mexico. Could you tell us a little bit about that work?
I have started in 2005 or 6 in the Americas. And while I was working there, I also came across the US Mexican border. Yeah. And because I come myself from a country which was divided 30 years ago and had a big wall, I started developing interest in the border area. So first I was interested in the landscape. I wanted to see how the wall really was installed and how both sides were dealing with the wall. Like I saw it here when I came the first time to Berlin during that time. And I also saw that in Jerusalem where you have the wall as well. So it's like, it's everywhere kind of the same scenery, but the landscape on both sides is very different. So my art history is already in school. I got an art education already in school. I had a concentration in art and in fine art. And this was also my first project, which I would have loved to show, but I don't have this here. Okay. So I come from painting originally, and I studied art and design in Italy, and fashion with concentration on fashion design. And this arose because I grew up in a fashion design or in a textile family.
Where in Italy? Was it the
I studied in Milan.
Polytechnical
in the center, exactly. I started in the center of the fashion world, and I grew up in Nuremberg, which was also in the medieval, the center of art. I mean, Albrecht Dürer is one of the most famous, most famous artists who came from the city I grew up in. So there was these two sides which I was confronted. One was the dark history from the Second World War and the Third Reich and Hitler, and the other was the beauty of the town, because it's a town which reaches back to the 8th century, so it's really old, and it has a lot of very famous artists, sculptor, painter. So it was this beauty I was constantly surrounded with. And then, of course, going to Italy, living there for a couple of years, I was again surrounded by also famous artists. And then, of course, the famous fashion designers, and that's where I come from. And then going to photography, I worked in, was kind of a longer way. I worked in fashion for, till I was nearly 40, for pretty much half of my life. And like I said, grew up since I was 2 years in between textiles. And then my first trip, and that's photos I have here for you too. One of my first trips during my career was a work trip to India and Hong Kong, where I lived for a while working for a company in the US. And this changed my view to the world to fashion and to what I really wanted to portray. While fashion was this glamorous side of the life, living in India was kind of the other side, was like the other side of the border. And suddenly it made no sense anymore for me. But I felt at that point I chose the wrong profession. And I still loved textiles, and I think I will always do. But the meaning of fashion itself kind of lost my interest.
It's very interesting how trips and traveling the world changes some notions of the, on the way we see the world itself. Somehow it is very important to travel, and it teaches you a lot, even how to eat. You know, it teaches you different kind of flavors, it teaches you different kind of and different kind of beauties, you know, different kind of sense of beauty. As you were saying, that everything started in India, and India is a country that is very, very self-confidence of their own beauty, you know, but this has a different notion that fashion world, as you said. It is very interesting, your story on and the path that you had to walk through to arrive to what you're doing now, and it's a incredible honor for us to see part of that work in our spaces in our gallery.
Yeah, for the first question, I put this image up because it brings me back to painting and Kommunatresse, exactly. And I did this image while I was, there was you. And it reminds me, why do you do art? And I think this picture for me it has everything, you know, it has depth, it has sensuality, it has feeling, it has emotion. It's painting, it goes back to my background, and it's still photography. So I picked this image because for me, it carries everything and has a female aspect. I loved Kommunatresse because that's kind of the ultimate expression of art is this Cartier, because there's so much art on one spot, and art doesn't always have to be fancy. Art doesn't have to be always, you don't have to be a famous artist to do art. Art is art is so much about emotions for me, and I think that's what this image expresses.
You are bringing an image that you took it in Medellin, which is very, very special for us, and that spot, as you were saying, that part of the city had become a place for expression, and it's of course it's a touristic attraction, you might say, but then it's also a resilience and a very powerful place where community is joined together with art. They are kind of is like in that place, art is the glue for society, is the glue for this community that is expressing themselves in to the world, actually, because it's a very, very famous place nowadays.
My work as a photographer started in Central America in 2005 and 6, where I made the first big trip with my camera. And I have an image here from Nicaragua. It was during the election of Ortega.
I must admit I don't know much about it, but yeah.
No, but it's like that's where my photographic career started, and I showed that because Nicaragua was really important for everything I'm doing, and I think everything I did in my photographic career, because if I wouldn't have gone to Nicaragua, I'm not sure what I would do, or in photography might be I really would be a classic fine art photographer or do flowers or so, but going to Nicaragua was following my interest for politics, which also is then swaps over to the border later on. But I'm interested in politics and post-war and post-conflict countries because myself come from a post-war and conflict country. And yeah, that's practically where all started. And I did a very long trip through Central America, through Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and Nicaragua. And when I came back to the US, my professor urged me to continue to the same and explore more and also go to South America. And my main focus was actually rural communities, working with nonprofits in this rural communities. But this was one of the first images I shot, and I think that's where I can say my whole. She's a fine art photographer, she has very beautiful work. And I went to her actually to learn about platinum printing. That's my fine art background that I really wanted to do more serious printing. And finally, I started shooting in this week. I started also using the first time a medium format camera, which became my major tool. Because now I shoot 80% of my work, I shoot with 6x6. And during this week, and that's why I show this image, not only I used the first time the camera, but I also, this project was the first serious project I and realized that you really have to go in the depths to understand what you're doing. My last project is a book, and despite the fact that I'm not doing that for so long, it's kind of a retrospective, or like, I mean, it doesn't have the work, but it's a book about all my body of work, my whole body of work. And it's something I'm working on since several years, and it's called Anderswo, Elsewhere. And it's published next week. It's getting out. It's published by Schild. And that's a dummy.
Looks great.
Here is the image. That's a dummy. It's open binding.
It's a nice size. Is it a square, completely square?
It's a square, and that's the original print. So we have it. I have it here also. You open it up. Of course, you get the book. And here you see also the process that was done when we printed it. This image is also from Colombia. It's from one of our workshops.
Yeah.
That's why I picked also all the images, because all these images not only were related to your questions, but they're also so important for me that they're all here in this book. And I tell you a little bit more about it. So Anderswo, it's a project with 3 parts. It's a personal project. It relates to my upbringing and all we talked before. It has 3 parts. It's memories, dreams, and stories. And in the story part is everything I'm seeing on my travels or on, over the years. And in the memory and in the dream part is everything I'm feeling. And both are really connected, and one is not can't stand alone. So as you have seen me working, I can shoot practically in 5 minutes or in the same moment, two totally different images. And one is very straight, very, I talk about what I'm seeing, and the other, like the image you see now, it's a clear image, what I'm feeling and what I have in my mind. My work is not really related to one space, because you have all over worldwide, you have the same issues, you have, I mean, people grew up in with the same history or similar history, and they have the same joy and they have the same problems.
That's true.
So I started looking through my body of work, and so we also, in the book, we didn't edit it for spaces. We didn't even put names. We have a plate section in the back. I can show you that. So you have, and it's on my website. I can also send you a PDF.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
3-part. Yeah, might be there's a lot of writing. And this also, the introduction images are textile images. It's from a tablecloth of my grandmother. And here you see all these dark images, all this memory, and then this is still, and then you come in the middle part, and that's the story section.
It's so much work. How is that doing?
It's so much work, yeah. And how it's going, we have started, so we have printed the book, but it's not bound, and it's available it's available in Europe, I think in 2 weeks, and it's available worldwide in August, I think. Everything in my life is related somehow to creativity and art. And I always loved interior design. And this was something, because it's also related to textiles. I love textiles because they have structure and depth.
Yeah. And
this is also, I think, visible in my images, and it's very funny because at PhotoFest, one person said, these images, they all look like, they remind me often of textiles. They have so much structure. And I definitely would do something where I need my hands, I need my creativity. I could not sit behind the desk. And in my real life, I need color, not bright color, but I like to play with materials.
Nice.
And today, probably, right now, I'm thinking not for my next project, but I probably would like to, in the future, also take what I know and probably integrate it with photography, probably do some mixed media projects where you have photography and some painting. I'm not sure if this ever will happen, because now I love photography, but to play a little bit with the tools.
So thank you so much, Petra, for participating in Artist Talks of Colombo Americano. It's been wonderful to see the path that you have to go through to arrive to the art that you are now producing and expressing yourself with all this background that you have. And it's been wonderful for us. And it's a great honor for us to have your work being exhibited in our spaces, and also to have you in this conversation. So thank you so much, Petra.
Thank you so much, Alejandro. I really thank you so much for letting me participate. It was a pleasure, and it was a wonderful memory working with you in Medellin, and I hope I can visit again. Thank you.
Yeah, we also hope to do that again someday in the future. Yeah, please, let's do something together.
In the future.